Today, Great.com talks with Ali Carey, who is Managing Director at Tanzanian Childrens Fund. If you haven't heard of them, they are a non-profit organisation on a mission to transform communities and help build brighter futures in Tanzania. If you are new here, please press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app, because today we learn the importance of supporting individuals and communities in Tanzania. Hello, Ali, and welcome to our podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So to start with, Ali, for me and anybody new here, what is the Tanzanian Childrens Fund and what do you do?
Yeah, so at the Tanzanian Childrens Fund, we are a community-based development organization where we focus on a community of about 10,000 people in very rural Tanzania. So our community is about 45 minutes from the nearest paved road, which is, as you can imagine, quite far out there. And we've developed a holistic solution to solving the issues of poverty. So we have a microfinance program, we have an education program, a health program, and then we have a children's village that's home to 102 orphaned children that didn't have an opportunity to have family in the community. There were no living relatives, no one that could take them in. So we are the permanent legal guardians of them. So we have our fingers in a lot of pots, but what we found is, if you send a child, if you invest in education or are able to send a child to school, but they're not healthy enough to stay inside the classroom, there's really what good is being in the classroom going to do, or what good is having books for them to read. So what we've done is sort of address all of the factors that lead to generational poverty.
Very interesting. So I'd like to ask you a bit further on from what you just said there. Like, why would you say that what you guys do is so important?
So what I would say that we do is, again, I think that piece of addressing all the factors, I think that the other, that we don't just say we're doing education and you have to figure it out on your own for health or economic opportunity. I think the other really important piece is that besides myself, who does fundraising primarily in the US, our team's on the ground, right? We work hand in hand with our community. We're not 7,000 miles away saying, oh, you need this, you need that, or, oh, this solution will work and that solution will work. We work with our community. We're able to pivot with their needs. It's not sort of just this Western NGO coming in and telling a community what they need. We work with them.
Okay, so how would that then say? How would working with these people, say feet on the ground, as you say, how does that look like, or what's the process of that?
Yeah, so one example of that I would say is, we co-manage 2 schools with the local government. So instead of starting a private school that only could serve, very bright or very wealthy Tanzanian children, we went into a public-private partnership with the government to co-manage 2 public schools or 2 government-run schools. So by doing that, we're able to serve not only all of the children in our catchment area, not just sort of the best and the brightest, but we're able to work with every child that's in that school district and attending those schools. And we're also able to work with the government to ensure that our methods are sustainable and aligned, with the overall goals of the Tanzanian education system.
Wow, that's amazing. So going on from this then, Ali, my next question would be, sort of since its founding in 2003, what have been some of your greatest challenges and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, I think that the challenges have changed somewhat over time. I think that in being as rural of a location we are, there is just always going to be some logistical challenges in terms of getting resources to our community, or in terms of having to build up, a local economy or the local resources available. It just takes a little bit more time than it would potentially take if we were in Dar es Salaam or Arusha, which are 2, local major cities. So I think our rural location is something that I love about our organization, because I think that those challenges, add a certain endearing level of complexity, but a complexity nonetheless, of just having to be that remote from any type of resource at all.
So I'd like to know as well, because this whole COVID situation that we've been in through since 2020, I'm guessing the start of 2020 was when we really was hit by this COVID situation. How has the COVID impact affected what you guys do in Tanzania?
Yeah, so the situation with COVID has sort of been ever changing with what we're doing on the ground. I think for a long time we were doing quite well, and in some ways amazingly well in terms of combating COVID. I think that the Delta variant shifted things a bit. When that arrived in Tanzania, I think we saw a little bit more of a spread. But I think the biggest piece is what it's done to supply chains. And then also what, we have a pretty vibrant volunteer program that relies on people coming in and helping with our early childhood program, or helping in caring for kids, or organizing containers and bringing over supplies that we can't find locally. And with COVID, obviously no one's traveling right now. So no one is coming to volunteer. No one is even coming really to Tanzania to visit. So we can't get local supplies, or get supplies to Tanzania that we can't find locally that we've been able to get, which, either we're spending a lot more to figure out a way to find them, or we're just going without them, which eventually, creates some issues there.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure that could create a lot of issues there. And I noticed that you said, I'm sure it's the early childhood program. Like, could you tell us a bit more about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things in Tanzania that's interesting is that, or in our community, there aren't opportunities for early childhood education. So students start their educational experience at 6 when they enter kindergarten, or awali in Tanzania. So what we found is that creates two big problems. Is that, one, you don't have that early childhood development that I think every parent wants to strive for. And two, for parents that are seeking economic opportunities and employment opportunities, they have no one to watch their children during the day. There is no childcare. There's no daycare they can send their kids. So what we did is we opened a early childhood program that serves all of the teachers of the schools we partner with and the Rift Valley Children's Village staff, to ensure that those teachers and the people and the employees that work for us are able to have a place to send their kids during the day that has an early childhood educational component, so that it's not just, babysitting. They go through a standard curriculum. They have sort of like educational milestones that they need to meet. And what we see is students that graduate from our early childhood education program are usually in the top 97% of students at the local primary school. So the kindergarten through, standard 7, which is amazing to see that those results for those kids. We're opening actually a second center this coming year, which is very exciting. So we're pretty thrilled about that, to be able to serve some more students.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear about. Like you said, it's not just, say, the parents just dropping their children off, that the children actually going there to learn those sort of vital skills that they can now or then use in their sort of adult lives as well. So, yeah, so it's so nice to hear that. So I noticed, yeah, go ahead, sure.
No, and I think that the other thing that's one great piece of the volunteer program is that in Tanzania, at secondary school, which is a high school equivalent here in the U.S., the education system transfers to an English medium school. So rather than being taught in Swahili, classes are taught in English. So a big piece of our early childhood program is we focus a lot on English literacy. So they have those skills in an early age. So when they go on to high school, they have that base starting at 2-3 years old. That they can continue building upon, both in primary school and then at the secondary level. So when classes are taught in English, it's not a totally new language to them.
I really love that. And yeah, I'm sure these children, not only now it's helping them at the moment, but definitely in their adulthood, it's going to help them tremendously as well. So going on from this, what would you say, Ali, are some of the biggest needs for, say, the individuals and even the communities that you support, and how are you part of the solution?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about quality education, that's the biggest need I think for our community. With the schools that we partner with, when we started our partnership with Gatigi Primary School, we were in the bottom 4% of schools in the nation. So that school had 700 students and 6 teachers, and they were not excelling academically. The outcomes for students were just really poor. What we've seen happen since we started our partnership in 2007 is now we're in the top 4% of public and private schools in the nation. So not even just government-run schools, but also private schools were in that top 4%. There are 2 other schools in our school district that don't have a partnership with the Tanzanian Childrens Fund. So actually over the next 5 years, as part of our strategic plan, we're going to be embarking on 2 more school partnerships to take on a public-private partnership with those 2 schools as well, which we're very excited about.
Okay, so
it's like that's the need, because there's still about 1,400 students that are in schools that are lacking resources to sort of provide students with the educational outcomes that they need.
So I'd like to know then, Ali, if you got the figures there, how many, say, individuals have you guys, say, supported?
Yeah, so we've supported about 10,000 individuals, 6,400 being children.
Wow, that's incredible. So
for one program or another, yeah.
Yeah, do you have, say, then any sort of success stories that really stand out at all?
Oh goodness, so many. It's hard to say. You see actually a lot of students that we've supported through college and university, because we offer scholarships for post-secondary education, have come back to work for the Tanzanian Childrens Fund in one aspect or another, whether they're a teacher at our school or head of our HR department. We've seen them come back and have now families of their own that they're supporting, and really truly able to live a brighter future that really wouldn't have been possible for them without, whether it be the scholarship opportunity or healthcare that they received or the economic opportunities that, our microloans provided to their parents. So it's amazing to be able to work alongside people that once were beneficiaries of our programs.
So I'd also like to know then how, say, for instance, if a child or family needs that support, whether it's with healthcare or financially, how do they go about sort of gaining that help from you guys? Or do they?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So we've now been in our community for almost 20 years. So we're a true local partner, right? So everyone knows that if they need healthcare, they can walk into our clinic and get healthcare as soon as they need it. Or if they'd like to start a small business and apply for a microloan, that they go visit Grace and Jonathan and them in microfinance. They know that if they need support for a child, who they call. I think, that's sort of the benefit of being on the ground, and not being sort of a Western run organization, because all of our leadership is really on site. All of our people are on site. They work and live within our community. So it becomes quite a bit easier for community members to access our programs.
So then, say, you use the word, say, like a microloan, for instance, to say,
Mm-hmm.
let's say a gentleman, for instance, turns up and asks for a microloan to, say, start a business to do with farming, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about, say, deciding whether they applied for the microloan or not?
So anyone's welcome to apply for a loan, and then our microfinance team evaluates their business proposal, evaluates different elements that would lead to successful repayment for that loan. And again, I think being in our community, we know almost everyone living in the Old Yanni community. So, we know all the various actors. So we really just review business plans. We set up loan structures for repayments. And we sort of go from there. But we supply about 730 microloans to small businesses. So 67% of those are women.
Wow. Wow, that's so nice to hear. And yeah, no, that's absolutely incredible. So what would you then say your vision is for the future?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We actually just are embarking on a new 5-year strategic plan. So as I mentioned, what we've seen is one of our greatest areas of impact is in the education sector. So that is someplace that we're going to be focusing on heavily going forward, because there is still a pretty great need in the education sector. As I mentioned, there's those 2 additional schools that are struggling to get the student outcomes that I think we'd all like that for them to see. So we're going to be taking over our public-private partnerships with 2 additional schools, which will allow us to serve about 2,000 more children. And then in addition to that, the secondary school that we have a partnership with, we're going to be transitioning that school to a boarding school. What we've seen is that students in our area are walking about 2 hours each day to school, to and from. And then on top of that, working, 28 hours a week to support their families at home. A lot of girls face risk of sexual assault on the walk to and from school, which is really devastating to see. So what we want to do is transition that to a residential campus where students have a supportive environment where they can live and study. And that's not a foreign concept in Tanzania. Boarding schools have been around for forever there, but they've really only been open to, again, elite families or very bright children that were able to get scholarship opportunities. So this will be something that's open to all students enrolled. We're going to start, it's a phased approach. We're starting with girls just because it does take a long time to build dormitories, and those are the most at risk. But over the next 5 years, we'll be able to house 380 students there. So big investments in education, but that doesn't mean that we're sort of stopping any of our other programs or not investing in them as well. For health, we're looking at a water, health, and sanitation program. So, there's a lot of different things on the horizon, but I think what we've seen is we sort of reached phase 1, and we've completed sort of like phase 1 of an organization, which is start leveling the playing field a bit. And now it's looking at more exponential growth as we sort of enter the next phase.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting. And it sounds like it's going to have a huge, knock-on effect with a bigger impact over time. So, yeah, that's super, super exciting. So
yeah, we're thrilled. We're very thrilled.
So Ali, so going on from this then, as we sort of finish up here, for anybody, listening today, what can somebody do to help, and what action steps can they take to be a part of the solution?
Yeah, I would say visit our website, www.tanzanianchildrensfund.org. Check out our volunteer opportunities, our sponsorship opportunities. We have all the information about how we're planning to grow in the years ahead on our website. Specifics I mentioned, specifics I didn't. We have a pretty big plan. And then looking at, investing in that plan with us. Via donations, whether that's a monthly donation of $5 or a larger donation at one time, but to look at, the financial support needed to make these sort of dreams and plans a reality for us.
Wow, thank you, Ali, so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation today. So for you listening, thank you, Ali. Like I said, I've really enjoyed it, and I'm sure many of our viewers and listeners will also enjoy this too. So for you listening, if you've also enjoyed this today, please press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app, because that will show the algorithms that this is an important conversation, so more people can learn the importance of supporting communities and individuals in Tanzania.